Ladies and gentlemen, whether you think the Inspector General report is going to give enough information for John Durham to indict corrupt officials, which I believe the IG report will compile enough evidence eventually for indictments to take place. Inevitably, eventually, in the future, perhaps in the near future, I wouldn't say imminent, but I would say either before or after the election, when Democrats lose again, when the golden muumuu levitates above the DNC. Because guess who's running again? She's back. Yes, striking fear and terrifying the hearts of millions, especially on the left. They'll all fall in line. Anyway, you know my spiel. You know what's going to take place. I'm telling you, before November. I would say almost certainly before November, perhaps a little bit after November. Who knows? The wonderful, the great, the fabulous, the fantastic, the virtuous Hillary Clinton is going to run again for president of the United States of America, eventually lose again to President Trump. This will be a wonderful thing for the Democratic Party and the country. Finally, we can move on as a nation from this decades-long flu we've been experiencing called, I call it the Bubba Bill flu. But let's continue. The IG report, I finally will get to. Breaking. Now, this is John Solomon. Representative Mark Meadows preparing referral asking IG to investigate FBI and Mueller's handling of Manafort warrants, contacts with media, and reliance on suspect ledger evidence. Now, the Inspector General report is all-encompassing. However, we are finding new examples of criminality every single day. Manafort was set up. How was he set up? He was set up with the dossier, the Steele dossier, which is completely debunked by the Mueller report. The Mueller report says there's no evidence. What does the Mueller report say? I'll give you exactly what it says. So, to hide their to hide the fact that they had no evidence at all, they write insufficient evidence, or not sufficient, but here. Second, while the investigation identified numerous links between individuals with ties to the Russian government and individuals associated with the Trump campaign. By the way, it's not illegal to have to meet people who are associated with the Russian government. Guess what? It's not illegal to meet people who are associated with the United States government. Okay. Anyway, the xenophobic Democrats have turned this. They lost the election, so now. Instead of asking, well, gee, how come President Obama didn't veto the sale of 20% of U.S. uranium capacity? Wow, why didn't that happen? That's bizarre. Now it's a context. Bill Clinton met with Vladimir Putin at his home outside Moscow. But let's not talk about that. Bubba Bill can get away with everything, anything. So can the golden muumuu. Anyway, second, while the investigation identified numerous links between individuals with ties to the Russian government and individuals associated with the Trump campaign, the evidence was not sufficient to support criminal charges. Not sufficient. Among other things, the evidence was not sufficient to charge any campaign official as an unregistered agent of the Russian government or other Russian principal. Not sufficient. And our evidence about the June 9, 2016 meeting regarding the DNC emails was not sufficient to charge a criminal campaign finance violation. Further, not sufficient. That's the third time it says not sufficient. Further, the evidence was not sufficient to charge that any member of the Trump campaign conspired with representatives of the Russian government to interfere in the 2016 election. Can you tell me why Hope Hicks, and I did a segment recently, just right before this one, talking about how William Barr is essentially protecting Hope Hicks, as he should. This is an important paragraph on page 17 of the Mueller dossier, which is the Mueller report. It should be called the Mueller dossier. Now, ladies and gentlemen, why did I read that to you? The evidence was not sufficient, yet the Steele dossier makes the most grandiose claims, stating, oh, well, the Russians, intel officers from the Kremlin, at the behest of Putin, worked alongside Manafort, Flynn, Papadopoulos, Carter Page, to buy Facebook ads, to hack the DNC, all of these things. They make the Steele dossier is a compilation of specific, fraudulent, bogus, absurd, nonsensical, irrational claims. Something that all Democrats love. And we know what the latest comments of AOC, which is a person of my background, absolutely offensive. I can't even bring it up because of the YouTube algorithm, but not only offensive, it boggles the mind how anyone would defend. And it's more egregious than anything said on the right. Anything. You're talking about revisionist historical... You're talking about altering historical record and the memory of something that shouldn't be utilized for political points, which is what AOC did. But anyway, the IG report is going to investigate why search warrants, the FBI obtained search warrants based on faulty information. So what the FBI did, because you know the Mueller report I just read to you, there was no evidence of anything. It was not sufficient for any criminal charges. That included contacts that Manafort had. Notice that when they indicted Russian intelligence officers, and one of my amazing subscribers brought this to my attention, and I never connected. I'm usually pretty good at connecting dots. But one of my subscribers said, hey, HA, notice that there were no co-conspirators, American co-conspirators, when Russian intelligence officers were indicted. Notice that there were no American co-conspirators when these Russian intelligence officers were indicted for allegedly hacking the DNC based on Company 1's information. Company 1 was CrowdStrike. So why weren't there any co-conspirators? Well, gee, I wonder why. Maybe because the whole thing was nonsense. Why didn't they indict Assange on the 18 U.S. Code 3? I don't even think that applies. The 18 U.S. Code 371 is the statute that I talk about, that Comey, Strzok, McCabe, Clapper, Brennan, and all of them, or most of them, or some of them, will be indicted on. And that's in my Federalist article. But this is the Hill. The FBI warned early and often that Manafort file might be fake. Used it anyway. The whole thing was nonsense. But the Mueller report said that there was not sufficient evidence to charge any type of criminal statute or any type of criminal charge. Not for election interference, not for campaign finance violation, not for being a Russian principal or working for Russia, not for interfering in the election. So what's the deal? How did they get a search warrant? It is the equivalent of your local law enforcement going to obtaining a search warrant out of spite or malice, using a fake compilation of gossip and hearsay. Oh, well, Bob Smith, whatever, John Doe. We have this news report from CNN. We have this news report. And we're going to obtain a search warrant based on that. It's like, well, they didn't even use the news report. They used a Steele dossier against Manafort that was compiled by Christopher Steele, who despised Trump, specifically purchased by the Clinton campaign from money funneled through her law firm. Money funneled through another entity. Again, money funneled, campaign dollars funneled through another corporate entity. The law firm was a corporation. Kind of like, I don't know, $1 million allegedly funneled from Justice Democrats into 2 LLCs. Gee, how did that happen? Let's not talk about that. You could file that into things you can't talk about, including blog posts from Joy Reid and one of our favorite YouTubers. Let's see. $1 million for dark money. Oh, that's associated with the fantastic and amazing AOC also. Oh, okay. Gotcha. Can't talk about that. Oh, I'm going for the long term. My annoying personality will be able to speak about things in a manner that is so benign, yet annoying, that it's almost just filed under H.A. Goodman's personality. which isn't against the law or against any regulation. So there you go. My personality is so annoying that actually I can speak about things that are unspeakable in my own bizarre way. Yay! Yay me. FBI warned early and often that Manafort file might be fake. Used it anyway. Well, gee, but if the FBI was warned that the Manafort file is fake, why did they use it? Why would they use something they knew wasn't true? That's bizarre. Why would they do that? In the comment section below, why would they try to frame Manafort? So if somebody on the left did time or was convicted of something based on prior offenses that actually they weren't convicted of but they had committed, the left would say, how dare you politicize and utilize the justice system to hurt a person. It doesn't matter if that person committed crimes prior. You're just doing it for political points. Well, that's exactly what they did with Manafort. They couldn't get him through the normal criminal justice process. He would never have been indicted on any charge because under the Obama administration, he was cooperating with the FBI and they refused to indict him. He was under investigation under the Obama administration. They couldn't find anything. Then oh my God, he bought an ostrich feather jacket. Oh my God. This was not a national security issue. They made it into the biggest grandiose thing. It was all public relations. So they said, well, he committed crimes. Yeah, but how did you find out that he committed crimes? Did you set him up? Because that's against the law. I mean, John Gotti was untouchable. He Teflon Don, because you could look at any criminal figure and say, look, this person, unless you go by the book, the defense attorney is going to say, hey, yeah, my client's not a saint, but you went after him through illegal means. So guess what? It's not, all of this is not admissible in court. What they did was they said, well, gosh, who is the only person associated with Trump that actually possibly committed some crimes? Oh, Manafort. Let's go ahead and find dirt on him in the Ukraine. How do we do that? Oh, let's just reach out to Ukrainian officials. Maybe they have a ledger. Maybe they have a secret ledger. Maybe they have a super double secret, super duper ledger next to the dossier so we can file a report. They need to open up a propaganda stationery store so they can have their nice ledgers and dossiers and reports and memos with the Comey memo. Everything, if it's written down on nice parchment, then it's worthy. But DNC emails that actually show corruption? No, the Russians want you to know. Notice how nobody talks about the actual words, the corrupt, insidious words of the campaign emails. 500 conflicts of interest in the Clinton Foundation. Oh my God, don't bring it up. The Russians want you to know this. Ladies and gentlemen, this sad and pathetic moment in U.S. history will be short-lived because the Democrats, once they lose again, this Twitter-fueled, bizarre, warped outrage culture where there's everybody's this, horrible victim, and if you said something 30 years ago, it's a problem, except if the Golden Muumuu makes offensive and, horrible statements, then we forgive Madam Cyberhack, but we don't forgive a conservative because, well, of course, we're utilizing anything they say for political points under the guise of being morally virtuous. This moment in time where everything is just, oh my God, how dare you say this? And then if it's AOC, it's like, well, she has a point. No, not really. Not at all. In fact, the most egregious things are said on the left. But they get away with it. But this point in history, this moment in history where Twitter controls the political narrative of our country, it's only going to be a short-lived point. This is not going to remain. We will be sane again. Sanity will come back to politics and to journalism and to media once the Democratic Party loses again with Madam Cyberhack. They're not going with Biden. So they didn't politicize the entire intelligence community utilizing a fake dossier and a bogus ledger against Manafort simply to get a search warrant, so then they could rest upon a special counsel that was unlawfully created, so they could utilize bureaucracy within the United States government, the criminal justice system, to further their political objectives. Mueller knew that there was nothing before the midterms, but he just waited. They all knew. Look, the Mueller probe was an extension of the Democratic Party. Now they don't have the whole Russia fantasy anymore, so you can see they're like devolving into madness. Their true selves are coming out. They're saying the most ridiculous things. They don't even have the courage to impeach Trump. Do it already. As a Trump supporter and somebody who is going to vote for Trump in 2020, and then people are like, how do you go from Bernie to Trump? Well, if you don't have the brain power to understand, read my article. I wrote in the Federalist exactly how. Why don't people read it? But people on the left are like, you know what? How do you go from Bernie to Trump? Lots of people do. Read it. Read the article. It's in the Federalist. Why Bernie supporters should vote Trump 2020. It's a great article. Read it. Read my latest article that was shared by Rush Limbaugh for 2 days in a row on his show. But ladies and gentlemen, the Inspector General is going to investigate this. We'll probably add some more time to the IG report. Who knows? The information is already there, so it shouldn't add too much more. I mean, look. Everything that was done, every single thing that was done was against the law, or either against the law or against regulations. The IG report will say, this might have been against the law, this might have been against regulations, this was bizarre, this was, gosh, this wasn't the usual way things are done, and gosh, golly gee, how did this happen? You don't go, like, investigators don't look into a bank after it's been robbed and say, well, that's bizarre, the door has been broken into, how does that happen? What? There are footprints all the way to the giant safe? That's not protocol. Usually people don't do that. What? There's a giant, crowbar that tried to break open the safe. Even the crowbar is like, broken in half. Yeah, but you know what? They managed to open the safe somehow. That's bizarre. This is really weird. How does that happen? That's what the IG report could be. That's what it was last time. Aside from when it said, yeah, Andrew McCabe lied under oath 3 times, indict the guy. But the IG report is the equivalent of a police station conducting an internal investigation. Or a school conducting, any bureaucracy that's going to conduct an internal investigation is going to protect the bureaucracy. Bureaucracies are entities that are self-serving and they want to survive no matter what. So they're not going to... You'll never find an internal probe that said, yeah, we found out that this organization should be bankrupted or, removed from society. We found that out internally. Yeah, it's true. That'll never happen. That'll never, ever happen. So the IG report is just an internal Justice Department probe. When people say, it'll never amount to anything, that's not the way to look at the IG report. The way to look at the IG report is that, look, it's compiling information for John Durham to use. And John Durham will use this information to help prosecution, to help prosecute people, especially Andrew McCabe. He's the low-hanging fruit here. And James Baker, these people are already under criminal investigation. How do they get out of this now? So when people say, like, oh, well, nothing will ever happen, that's possible. I don't think it's likely. I think it's likely that some things happen. I think eventually, after Democrats lose again, Clinton, after other people get indicted, will eventually get indicted, because you can't continue to commit crimes. The people who say, oh my God, H.A. Goodman says Hillary's getting indicted. Yeah, she committed crimes. Trump did not. Big difference. If you commit crimes and you continue to do so, she has a new foundation. She has a new foundation. Why? Because she's running again. Give me your thoughts below. The IG report's going to find out exactly why a ledger was used, a dossier was used to obtain a search warrant, and to eventually indict Manafort. If Manafort committed crimes and they found out about these crimes through illegal means, he needs to be pardoned tomorrow. The left would demand that of anyone who was experiencing the same thing. Give me your thoughts below. I want to thank you very much, by the way, for your kind words, your support. If you want to support my voice long term, my Patreon is below in the pinned comment. Share my writing in the Federalist in the pinned comment. The same article that Rush Limbaugh shared. But I just want to thank you also for your kind words. I'll be back later on today, much later on today, so check out the channel, especially if you sleep late. So I'll probably either have an upload or possibly a live stream at around, I would say, probably 10 or probably 11 o'clock Pacific. So check the channel around 11 Pacific. Thanks, everyone.